Okay, and Felyn, we start your mini session as you and your friends all decide to part ways for a little bit. You all having a bit of an idea of something you want to do while you're here before you go to the next campus. And whether you're still filled with excitement from your visit to Fury Gale, you make your way out of the abandoned building and back through the fence onto Prismari campus, and you trace your steps over to the Prismari dorm because you're looking for a specific person.
Yay.
And you go, and you find it the same as it was. You see it in this sort of really interesting and very sprawling building with this very unique architecture, the same as the rest of the college campus. And you make your way to a very familiar door. How do you approach? How do you go about this after last time?
So, both me and Felyn do not have a plan for this.
Fair enough.
Or at least don't have much of a plan.
Okay.
So we're just gonna get into it. She's just gonna knock.
Okay. You knock. And last time when you knocked, you distinctly remember that there was like the shattering of glass and loud curse and like an angry reaction. But this time you hear almost an instant reaction, still with that sort of annoyance in her voice, as you hear her call out, "Felisa, you know you're here too early," and she walks over to the door and opens it, and you see Rutha in front of you, but not looking the same as she looked last time, as she's dressed in sort of a maroon dressing gown, holding a glass of red liquid, hair down, soft jazz playing from her room as she looks at you and she says, "Oh."
Hello there.
Hello. Did you
Sorry.
need something?
Sorry to disappoint, I'm assuming. Have I caught you at the bedtime?
You see, she kind of looks around and sighs and says, "Not particularly. I still have a bit of time before I'm needed anywhere."
Felyn will clap her hands and smile and say, "Wonderful. I have some questions for you."
If this is about the same thing from yesterday, I already told you that it'll get turned in when it's done.
I am. Oh, do not worry. I'm not here to pester you about due dates. I am, however, incredibly curious about your work. In general.
You see her go to take a sip of her drink with a bit of a laugh, and she says, "A fan, I see."
I suppose.
Well,
I would like to be a fan.
If you want to see what the great Squall Heart is up to, feel free to come in if you want. And she kind of opens the door and looks at you expectantly.
Felyn will give a deep bow, and then we'll go ahead and walk in and say thank you.
Nice. So you walk in, and you actually see a pretty decently sized room. It's about the same size as your dorm rooms back over on the first year campus, but you immediately can tell that this is a solo room. So even though it's the same space, this is all just for one person. And you see a sort of stylish rug on the ground. There is the occasional painting. There is a very notable shelf of, for lack of a better way to describe it, bottles of what either could be liquor or potions. You're not sure. And a nightstand that has sort of this beautiful sculpture of like ice suspended over it. But what she leads you to is actually a door to a side room that she kind of opens up these double doors, and you see a room easily 3 times as big as the bedroom that looks almost to be a studio.
Holy shit.
And it is filled with half-finished works, all of which are sculptures made of ice and water. And it is fantastical to look at, but you see that she kind of just stands in the doorway and crosses her arm and takes a sip of her liquid, seemingly waiting for you to do or say something.
Felyn is looking in awe at all of these water and ice sculptures. And after looking around for a bit, she's going to turn to Rutha and smile, and she's like, you are correct, I am very much a fan.
You see her go to give a scoff and says, "They're all trash, but thank you."
Oh, trash can't be beautiful. Trash can be beautiful still.
I suppose.
And she's actually going to go ahead and look at some of them while speaking to Rutha, and is going to say, "Can I ask what about them is unsatisfying to you?"
You see her go to give a sigh, and she starts to kind of walk around the room, and each one she stands in front of, she has something, if not multiple things, to critique about it, whether it's the shape or the balance, or if it's in the likeness of something, how it misses the mark in here or here, how this one is just like some of them she critiques, and you can tell it almost feels like she's, I don't want to say reaching, but you know how when you talk to somebody who, you get the vibe that she is a perfectionist about her work, and everything in here she seems to have something to say about it. You know?
Mm-hmm. Felyn will just kind of nod her head along. And she's going to look to Rutha and ask, is there a reason they are still here? Do you plan on modifying them?
Some of them, yes, I can always melt them down and refreeze them, but it's easier to keep them when they're solid instead of in buckets around the room. And you can see, as she points it out, that under tables and next to a lot of these sculptures are like various containers that you assume must be to hold the water before it's frozen. She kind of shrugs and says, sometimes keeping things that aren't great can help you figure out what you want to do for the next time. So reminders, storage, what have you. I have a lot of space. I might as well take up some of it.
Well, in that, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I did notice this is a solo room.
Yeah, generally, pledge mages get solo rooms with a solo attached studio. Before that, you have to share.
Oh, I did not know you were a pledge mage.
Yes, I'm a 3rd year. I would ask you, but I think it's pretty apparent what year you're in.
Felyn will laugh a bit at that. She says, yes, the uniform is very telling.
It is. That's the point, though.
I assume these are made by arcane means? Or are they hand sculpted with chisel? And she, mimes chiseling.
Some people do that. I flash freeze water into these sculptures.
Felyn's eyes light up, and she's immediately going to start asking questions of an arcane nature,
Mm-hmm.
as basically asking, Like, oh, what's the ideal temperature to freeze it at? What's the exact time do you freeze it? Are you maneuvering the water at the same time that you freeze it, or are you freezing it like immediately after you've let go of the concentration for controlling the water, so on and so forth?
She definitely, like, you see she kind of like accepts your barrage of questions. And the questions that she does answer, she answers in pretty short bursts, very plainly. She's not really elaborating on it. And almost carelessly, you see her reach out and knock over with a bit of force a cup that seemed to have water in it, and you can see firsthand as it splashes off the ground, all of it is frozen in a second as it crests into that wave of the splash, including the droplets as they kind of float where they laid.
Felyn kind of looks at it in awe for a second, specifically the like floating droplets and whatnot, and then she just claps.
You're very easily impressed. They don't take that you're an artist.
Oh no, not really. The most I could do is some very naughty poetry, but that's a written form.
She nods and she kind of gives
I have
a
always.
shrug. Okay.
I have always had an appreciation for it though, so it is also very rare for me to see art that has more of an arcane nature to it, either in its form or in its actual standing. Thank you very much for allowing me to come in here to see this.
She gives a nod and kind of shrugs a shoulder and puts like a hand on her waist. And she kind of looks over at it, and she says, I suppose that's fair enough. This is a rather simple way to go about what I'm doing, so it's not particularly impressive, if you must know.
That's impressive to me, and that is enough.
Well, thank you. And she kind of looks over at you, and says, the longer you're here, the less I'm sure that you came just to see a Squallheart's work.
Felyn's gonna kind of like look back through from looking at the sculpture. Is going to shrug a bit and say, it was a large part of why I came, but I also am generally curious. Well, I'm largely curious in general, period. I like to know things.
She gives a bit of a laugh and she says, let me rephrase that then. I come from a family of artists. Our name is very well known and famous. That's what I meant. I thought you came here specifically because of who I was. But I'm starting to see that I don't think you know who I am.
I do not. You are partially correct that I came here because of who you are, because you are very intriguing. Though I know not of your family.
Fair enough. And she goes to finish her glass and kind of walk back out of the studio into the bedroom. And you can see through the big double doors that are sort of open. She goes to uncork a glass bottle and refill her glass. And she says, well, I'm not particularly the best host, but if you would like a drink, you're welcome to one.
I would love one.
She pours you a little drink, and it's a red liquid on the rocks, and you're welcome to come and pick it up.
Felyn will go and pick it up and sip at it.
Nice. It is very obviously liqueur. Let me give you the flavor profile really quick.
Nice.
Hold on a second. It is it sort of has a dry flavor, so it's there's no sweetness to it, so it has like a sort of dry flavor. That does have kind of a smooth finish. It doesn't have as big of a knockback as you would expect, and it has a bit of a floral aftertaste to it. Yes. It's pretty good. I don't know if Felyn drinks a ton of alcohol, but it's definitely not bad.
Yeah, I don't think she drinks it very often, but I think she'd enjoy this.
Nice.
Yeah, so she'll take a sip, and she will look to Ruth and say thank you. I wanted to ask, now that I've seen your work, are there places on campus where your work is displayed, or are they purely for classwork?
Well, if you're asking if there are places with Prismari students' art on display, practically every room on campus has something someone here has made, but if you're looking for works of particular interest, Opus Walk is where some of the more outstanding pieces are on campus. Give me 1 second. I have to check something really quick. I have to check something from a little story. You see her kind of shrug a shoulder and say, "But none of my work is on display there, but you can find my mother's, if that interests you."
Did your mother also attend school here?
Yes, I come from a long line of ice sculptors, Prismari graduates. As I said, my name carries a lot of weight.
This makes sense.
Yes.
Sorry,
go
ahead. Felyn's gonna think for a second, and she'll ask, have you ever tried doing other art forms? Are there any that interest you?
You see her kind of look at you and give you kind of a very blasé look and say, "I'm a bit late into my studies to pick up an entirely new art form. But no, this is the art all of my family does."
Felyn will shrug, and she'll say, "It's never too late to try something new. Maybe not for a full degree or anything, but for your own enjoyment. Just to try it."
Fair enough. I suppose I could always go rub elbows with some of the painters on campus.
Felyn smiles and says, "I'm sure you would be lovely at painting. It's different from sculpting, from my understanding, but seems some of the principles are similar."
The flow of it is similar, so it's not altogether too different. You see her kind of go to give you a look and kind of lean on the sort of shelf that has all of her bottles and says, "But you come into my room and inspect my art and interrogate me. What about you? This first year that has stumbled into my home."
Felyn will laugh then and say, "Oh yes, it's my apologies. if there is anything you wish to know, I am an open book.
A name would be a lovely start.
Oh, yes. At that, Felyn kind of like her eyes widen, and she immediately sets the drink down, and walks over to Rutha and holds out her hand, and gives a bow and says, "My deepest apologies. I am Felyn."
Nice. Are you holding out a hand to like shake?
Yeah.
You see her go to shake your hand, and it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but she takes your hand almost like, you know that way that somebody takes your hand when it's offered when they're like a noble and it's kind of like half in your hand? I don't know how to describe it. That vibe. And gives you sort of a shake and a nod and says, well, as you probably knew before you were sent to harass me, my name is Rutha Squallheart. It's nice to officially meet you.
Felyn nods and says, "Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you as well. I apologize. I got so caught up in everything, I forgot my manners."
No, that's fair. It's not exactly like we had a chance to talk yesterday, so better late than never.
Felyn nods. And we'll go back to pick up her drink.
Delicious. You see in this time of conversation, you see that she has already poured herself another glass. I hope you like the vibes of this lady.
I love this lady's vibes. I had something else that I wanted her to ask, but I can't remember.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you are A-okay. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. Rip.
I'm so sorry, but I think after about this amount of time that you've been talking, as you guys are kind of sort of mingling around her liquor cabinet, you hear a sprited knock on the door, and a very cheerful voice says, "Open up!" Right before it like opens a crack, and you see somebody's head peek in, and you see that this person has this sort of long dark hair, pale skin, and these sort of like black markings on her face. And you see her look in and give sort of a scandalized gasp and says, "Rutha, do you have company? We have plans. We have plans." And you see Rutha go to kind of really quickly put down her drink with like a loud noise and says, "You know not to just come in here." And you see the person at the door actually slips in as that's being said, and the door closes. And they start to kind of bicker back and forth, like, "Well, it's about time for us to go." And Rutha is just like, "And you should wait until you're invited in," like a bickering back and forth. And you see the girl with black hair kind of turn to you with a smile, and "Who's this?"
Felyn will give a big smile and say, "Hello, my name is Felyn," and hold out her hand. I was just visiting. I was very intrigued by Ruth's work.
You see her go to take your hand and shake it very elegantly and give sort of like a little dip and says, "It's lovely to meet you. My name is Felisa Fang."
Ooh.
And she kind of looks you over a bit and says, "Yes, our Rutha is the talk of the campus. So there is that." And you see Rutha kind of give a groan next to you and say, "Be careful with that one. She'll get in your head." And Felisa's like, "I will not."
Felyn will laugh a little bit. Is Felicia in Prismari robes?
No, actually, wearing a very fancy dress of black, white, and gray.
Oh,
Yes,
let's
I
see.
believe I have art of Miss Felisa, so give me a second.
Ooh.
Yes, I believe that I do. And something that you would notice with your passive is that when she smiles, or sometimes when she is bantering with Rutha, she grins. You can see extremely pointed canines. Strixhaven art. Miss Felisa. Miss Felisa, where are you? There we go, yes. There we go. Is this DM's? Yes, it is. This is what this character looks like.
Let me see. Ooh.
Yes.
Hello.
And
Nice.
it is Felisa.
Oh. Oh yeah. Felyn will just give a little bow and say, well, it is good to meet you. Do you go to Silver Quill?
Yes, I am. Wow, you already know so much, and you just got here.
Felyn will smile and say, thank you. I've been trying to get the lay of the land, as it were.
Can you roll me a wisdom saving throw really quick?
Oh no! Was Rutha being literal? Oh
Not
no.
yet.
Oh no. Oh, I forgot I'm good at wisdom. 16!
16? Okay, cool. And what did you say exactly? You're just trying to get the lay of the land?
Yeah.
You see that she's still holding onto your hand and giving you a warm smile and says, well, that's really commendable of you. I personally think that more people should take that sort of thing seriously. Knowing as much information as you can gives you a bit of a leg up when you actually get to your studies. And as she's talking, you feel a bit of a lightness in your breast, sort of like, not necessarily joy, but almost like you want to puff up your chest, like you feel like kind of this surge of pride. And you see Rutha go to kind of knock her shoulder and says, cut it out. Let people know when you're doing that. And she lets go of your hand. She's like, all right, all right, all right. It's not bad. And then as soon as she lets go of you, it kind of dissipates.
Get a sense of anything arcane there? Was that like a spell?
It definitely was sort of a magical effect, yes.
Okay.
You don't think it was a charm based on how you felt, but it was definitely of a magical situation.
Okay. Flame will kind of blink her eyes a little bit, and she will look to Felisa and say, oh, was that magic?
Yes, well, you see, you might not know much about titles yet, but I'm what you call a vainglory. And she kind of tucks some hair behind her ear and says, to summarize it, it would be a master of white magic that bolsters their allies. I am known for making my friends and loved ones feel nice about themselves, which isn't a bad thing, Rutha. Maybe I wanted to instill some pride in a first year.
Felyn will laugh a bit at that, and she says, "But I appreciate you for trying to bolster me. What is white magic?"
Oh, you must not have heard about the colors yet. Well, you see, it's a bit of a thing. They'll go through a bunch of lectures explaining it to you, but there are different colors of mana and magic that utilizes those colors therefore has those same colors. So white magic uses white mana, and they have certain properties and that sort of thing. Uh, Being a white mage or a blue mage are very different in what you can utilize and how you utilize it generally. Each of the colleges has 2 colors that they specialize in. One of Silverquill's colors is white.
Nod her head. Just I see. The other one is black. Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Which is,
Fascinating.
I think, self-explanatory as the opposite of white magic.
Felyn nods her head, and she says, "I want for 2 more questions about it, seeing as there will be lectures. But I'm very intrigued by this, so thank you for giving me the heads up."
Of course. Don't worry, you'll have 4 long years to get a handle on which colors you like and that sort of thing. Um, well, since you've asked me some questions, can I ask you some questions?
Oh yes, of course.
Are you of vampiric nature?
Am I what?
Are you of vampiric nature?
Oh no.
Do you know anyone who is?
Felyn thinks for a bit and will shake her head and says, "No, I don't believe so."
Well, that's completely fine. If you do, feel free to reach out to me. I run the Union for Vampiric Students.
Oh.
If you would be interested, over on Witherbloom, we do very frequent blood drives. We always love donations.
Felyn will kind of nod her head a bit, what's her dumbstruck? And we'll just nod her and say, "Oh, yes, of course."
Amazing. I don't have any of my paperwork, and besides, clubs aren't really up for registration yet. But if you ever want to, volunteer and help out, you don't have to be vampiric to join the union. It's just, a union to help vampiric students, and we would really appreciate it.
Felyn will nod and smile and say, "Yes, I will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you for letting me know. I had no idea such things existed on the campus."
Of course, there's actually a lot of vampires on campus, so it really helps out,
Oh, yes, I can imagine it would.
And as you're sort of chattering, she looks over and she says, "Rutha, you're still not ready? And then Rutha immediately goes to turn away and throw up her hands and says, "You guys are in my room. How can I get dressed when you are here?" And Felicia's like, "All right, fine. And she goes to shoo you out of the room with her to go stand in the hallway.
Yeah, Felyn immediately goes to excuse herself whenever she starts talking about y'all are in my room.
As soon as Felicia closes the door, she kind of stage whispers, she's not actually trying to be quiet, and she's like, "Sorry, she's a bit of a grump."
Felyn will chuckle a bit, and she'll say, "It seems like she has a lot to live up to, so I think I would be too."
Oh, it's true. Her family's really big. I'm sure you must already know about that. So.
And know of it somewhat, yeah.
All that and all the attention from Uvilda and all of that, But she's also always been like that before that was even a thing. So who knows where it comes from.
Felyn will kind of tilt her head and say, "Vilda?"
Oh, I guess you wouldn't know. Uvilda is one of the deans of Prismari.
Ah.
The blue one.
Sorry, I'm writing this down.
That is okay.
Will nod her head, and will say, "I assume this Vilda has an interest in her academic career, as it were?"
Oh, well, yes. Generally, deans are pretty present when you're on college campus, but generally when you're in your last couple of years, this all comes with time, but generally you gravitate towards one of the colors, and so you find a focus on a certain course load, and I mean, if you know a bit about her family, then you would know that, like, they're all Prismari graduates, and all of them work with uh, blue magic. So, you know, it's kind of a situation of like she like knows her family and stuff.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
That makes
generally,
sense.
you get to know your deans pretty well, but like in this particular case, really well, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Uh, may I ask what it is like on the Silver Quill campus? I have yet to be there. I have yet to go there yet.
Oh, I love it. It's so, if you haven't been there, it's beautiful, very elegant. Prismari campus also looks very striking, but in a different way, very classic, if you get my meaning. Um,
Ah, yes.
uh, the people on campus are a bit, you know, loud, a bit opinionated, a bit in your face, but I'm sure you must have gotten that vibe from me already. Rutha tells me I'm the epitome of a silver quill, so I can believe it. Um, but the campus is wonderful. You probably won't have tons of reasons to go on there before you pick a college, but the gray room is open to all students, the rose stage, that sort of thing.
Felyn will nod, and she'll say, "It sounds lovely. Me and my friends are going to be taking a bit of a self-guided tour around the other campuses, so I'm sure we'll be seeing it later today."
Oh, that's delightful. You should definitely stop by the gray room. If you have trouble finding it, ask somebody where the Dramarium is and you'll be able to find the gray room, but I really recommend it.
Huh. Thank you.
Okay.
What is the Dramarian and the Grey Room?
Well, the Dramarium is kind of a place where you can practice for like different performances and things and events. There's rooms for fitness, dance, physical performance sort of thing. And the gray room is, well, it might honestly be more fun if you saw it for yourself, but it's definitely the highlight of every Silverquill student's day.
Felyn will smile and will say, "Oh, well, in that case, I look forward to seeing it for the first time."
Of course, of course. And I mean, who knows? If you're going today, you might see me over there, but it depends on when you actually get around to it.
Oh, well, if I see you, I'll be sure to say hello.
Of course.
Felyn is going to glance to the door to Ruth's room and say, "If you don't mind my asking, what are you two going to be doing?"
Well, you see, Rutha doesn't get out much, so I'm trying to get her out to live a little bit. We were going to meet up at the tavern, but there's still a couple hours until it opens, so we were gonna hopefully go and get some air. Maybe visit the Grey Room if that's something she's interested in. Who knows? But
Well, don't say, yes, that does make sense.
don't tell her I told you that.
Felyn will make the motion of like zipping her lips. Mr. Your secret is safe with me.
But you see her kind of go to very casually lean on the wall and say, "If you don't mind me asking, I know you just got here. You have a whole year to think about it, but a lot of people actually do come with the idea of what they want their major to be. Have any of the colleges really stuck out to you yet?"
A little bit, yes. I believe. Hang on, I have to scroll back to get the lore dump.
Yeah,
Hang on.
that's fair.
Because I remember one of them was like, yeah, that's Felyn, all right. Hang on. Yes. Felyn will stand up a bit straighter and say, I was actually interested in Quandrix.
Oh, that's fun. You see she goes to like tap her temple bit and says, "Curious minds, am I right?"
Felyn nods with a big smile.
That's fun to see in a first year.
and says, "Thank you. I was in schooling for a long time and had a very large break, and have been trying to relearn some things. But I think Quandrix is, from my understanding, exactly my cup of tea."
I love that for you. There are some times where it takes people kind of a while to really find their niche, so having an idea of it is actually a really good boon.
And nods. And she says, "Yes, it helps to have not the same process, but at least similar process before." What else do I want to ask this lady? This fucking vampire?
I hope you like this vampire.
I love this vampire, and I love that vampires are like common enough that there's like a blood drive and shit.
They're common enough to have a fucking union. I hope you love that.
Yeah. I love it so much.
You can ask about vampires if you want. I have a lot of information about vampires here.
I can. I'll do that. Flynn is going to kind of think for a moment and say, I hope it is not rude of me to ask this. Where I come from, vampires are not very common. I would love to know more about this union.
Oh, of course, yes. So, we try to be really active in recruiting first years because obviously you want to make sure all of the students have like the resources they need and that sort of thing. So, what we generally do is we run the blood drives, usually with help with the witches clinic. We have a bit of an agreement. Basically, to summarize it, is that on top of free meals, the union helps make sure that students of a vampiric nature have access to the blood that they need, whether for healing or for sustenance, that sort of thing. The kinds of accommodations you need really depend on if you're a turned or born vampire. That sort of thing is kind of important. But it's also, the blood drives are completely legit. There's kind of this idea that it's like you're signing up to get bitten, and that's not the case. No, a doctor takes your blood with a needle, and it's stored for later use if it's necessary. And also, we sometimes have meetings to really touch base on things that students need as like times change and that sort of thing, or if there's an issue. Vampires are particularly common on campus, but not necessarily everywhere else. Even one of the deans is a vampire.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes, it's a big step up from how things used to be, and I feel like the work we're doing here really helps with that.
Felyn nods. And she'll say, I take it was worse off for vampiric students before?
Well, historically, yes. Now, I don't think it's been terrible lately. Then again, I'm not really in touch with places that have a low vampiric population. I come from a family of vampires, you see. So I came from an area that I had access to a lot of other vampires. But it's just nice when you have other accommodations that you need to have people who can understand, that sort of thing.
Oh, yes, of course.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
F in chat.
F in chat. Oh, and then she would also kind of mention, if you're ever interested in networking with other vampiric students, generally vampiric students kind of stick closer to Silverquill or Witherbloom. Vampiric creatures naturally draw on the teachings and power of black mana, so that's where most of them are, but not all of them, obviously.
Yes. Felyn is actually going to ask.
Yep.
You say the union meets in Witherbloom?
Well, it's not. That's not where all of the meetings are. It's just where the blood drives are all ran from, because most of the medical personnel and also medical students are on Witherbloom campus. It's just easier to run it there. But we alternate meetings between Witherbloom and Silverquill. Generally, in the first couple weeks, we try to have a couple meetings also in the Biblioplex if we can, to sort of raise awareness and do outreach and stuff. But, you know.
There, I suppose, is there a base of operations of sorts, or a particular person or people to contact?
Well, you can always contact me. But generally, there's not like a headquarters. We call it a union, but it's not necessarily even like a club or an actual organization. It's sort of just a network of vampiric students and people who want to help. But generally, if you know a vampiric student, they can always get into touch with somebody else.
Flynn will nod and smile and say, well then, I'll be sure to talk to you.
Of course. And also, if you ever want to donate, outside of scheduled blood drives, you can always go to the Witch's Clinic, and ask the person working
there. Flynn will nod, and she'll say, I would like to donate, I believe. I am not entirely used to donating blood. It is drawn out with needle?
Yes. So we use a needle, and some places have a bit more of a, I suppose, a more complicated setup. But generally what we do is we have a needle, and your blood is drawn out, sometimes coaxed a little bit with arcane power, but not generally much. And it's put into a bottle and stored. I know only the basics. Really, if you wanted to know more details, I would definitely recommend heading over to the clinic and asking Nim. Nim is usually the one who handles that sort of thing. I'm more knowledgeable on the more informal way of drawing blood, but that's not how we do things here.
Flynn will nod her head, and she'll say, their name is Nim?
Yes, the teacher's aide that runs the Witch's Clinic this year, I believe their last name is Quinolis? Nim Quinolis is their name.
Flynn will nod, and she'll smile and say, I have a friend named Nim.
Oh, how fun! Small world, huh?
Yes. Flynn will laugh a bit and say yes.
I've been so excited for you to find out that NPC name.
I know, I heard it ahead of him, like, wait a second.
Wait a second, now hold up. Hold on, Lily's messing with a cord. I have to get it. Okay, I have saved it.
No.
I feel like my vampire.
I love this vampire. I'm gonna talk to her more.
I love the Vampiric Union. I had a lot of fun making it.
It's so cool. Oh, actually, here's something that Felyn would ask. Felyn, holding her parasol still kind of hooked on her arm, is going to look to Felice and say, vampires on this plane have problems with sun as well, correct?
Oh, no, not particularly, actually.
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay.
I've heard stories where that was a thing, but we can walk around in the sun just fine. Whether that means that there's something different about the sun or about the vampires of this plane, I'm not really sure.
Flynn will just nod her head. So that is actually very intriguing. Well, in that case, I will not bother asking about the shade accommodations.
Oh, but if there are some races here that live underground, do you have an issue with sunlight?
Yes. I am a drow, and I suppose I can't really speak for all drow, but I'm from drow, have a large problem with being in direct sunlight.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
But
I
it's okay. It
imagine
is
this is a
not.
hard place to be in with many suns.
Felyn laughs a bit. And she says, "It is a bit more uncomfortable than my home. But I also worship the light, so it's a pretty good deal, in my opinion."
I'm glad there's some silver linings in it.
You say there are students that live underground, though?
Oh, yes. There are, if you're looking for places that have more shade, I definitely know that the dorms in Lorehold are underground. A majority of Lorehold campus is actually underground. I still think they get sunlight, but not as directly as some other campuses. And I do know that Witherbloom has a lot of shade. It's in a pretty dense bog with lots of trees.
Oh.
Yes. Some of the other places you might have a bit of difficulty walking around and avoiding open spaces. But that should help. And obviously, like the Biblioplex isn't so bad. I don't imagine the snarls light hurts you.
Oh, not at all. I intend to do whatever studying and reading in the biblioplex as I can.
Yes. So hopefully then that also will help. There's some like windows and things, but it's not like direct. If you need like a better parasol, I'm sure I could find someone to maybe help with that sort of thing. I'm not really sure how to help.
Oh, it's perfectly fine. Honestly, just knowing the places that would be a bit kinder on the eyes does help me.
Good, I'm glad.
I might speak with student resources or see if there is a you can rent magic items.
Yes.
Yes, so I might look in with them and see if they might have any kind of specialized thing for the eyes.
Oh, I think that could definitely help. I definitely know that there is at least goggles of night vision. There should be a way to reverse that charm. You know, there has to be. The brightest minds in the plane are here. You know, somebody will have something.
Felyn nods and she'll smile and say, "Yes, to be completely honest, I find myself feeling as though nothing is impossible here."
Well, that sort of mindset will get you very far. Don't worry. And if you ever need a little bit of nudging, I am here, and my services are mostly free.
I wouldn't expect you to work without giving some kind of compensation. Is Rutha
Oh yeah, I definitely think about at this point. Sorry, I never want to interrupt my players. I definitely think about at that point. The door kind of opens and Rutha comes out and is wearing a similar dress to the one that you saw her wearing the first time, where it's sort of like a uniform situation. You've seen some people out of uniform today on a free day, but not everybody. And wearing her Prismari dress and kind of crosses her arms. And it's at this point when you really notice when you're in like this hallway that both of them are a lot taller than you.
Yeah.
Ruth in particular is towering, but you know, is how it is when it's orc, you know. And she kind of crosses her arms and says, "I hope you two are having fun out here."
Felyn will give a big smile and say, "Yes, we're having a delightful conversation."
Oh, great. I see you guys were getting buddy-buddy. Dangerous.
Felyn will laugh at that. And she will look to the two of them and give a big bow and say, "Thank you for being so gracious to me today. It is a great pleasure to meet you both."
You see Rutha give a nod and says, I think as Felisa kind of goes to be like, "Oh, of course, it was lovely to meet you," and like yammer on, you see like Rutha kind of give a nod and say, "It wasn't terrible. If you would like to visit again, I won't run you off."
Felyn will perk up and give a big smile and say, "I would love to visit again. Thank you."
Of course. Well, I didn't get dressed to stand in a hallway all day. Felisa, if you're gonna drag me off somewhere, then let's go.
Felyn will smile and say, "You two have a nice rest of your day." And give a little wave.
Yeah, and they both give you a little wave, and you part ways in the Prismari dorms.
Yeah, that went a lot better than I thought it would.
I thought it was very fun. I was really excited for this because the minute you were like, "I'm gonna do this thing," and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's one thing. I can make it a scene." Also, hold on. I want to find a very specific outfit. That was the outfit that you walked in on her in, because I just think it's very fun. And if you're wondering if it's the one that you're thinking of, yes.
Oh, please.
But
please,
like burgundy.
Yeah!
Yes, I had to work really hard to find the one that wasn't sheer, but like it was just this.
God fucking bless.
I hope you like Rutha. I think she's very hot.
I love Rutha. I want to kiss her.
You should. You should kiss her. I'm gonna stop the recording really quick. I'm also gonna show you the whip of her dorm room since you have now been inside of it.